My fiancée said, "I'm charging you rent to live in your own house. It's only fair I get paid for putting up with you." The house was 100% mine. I said, "How much?" She said, $2,000 per month. I replied, "How about you pay me that for squatting?" When I serve her a 30-day eviction notice, I'm 34, male, work in logistics management, and I own my house outright. Bought it at 29 with money I'd been saving for 6 years while eating ramen and driving a car with a cracked dashboard. I'm telling you this up front because the whole story hinges on one fact. The house was mine. Completely, legally, undeniably mine. My fiancée and I had been together for 3 years when she moved in. Before that, she'd been renting an apartment across town, 2 months behind on rent when we first started getting serious, which I quietly helped her catch up on without making it a whole thing. I didn't want her to feel embarrassed. I just wanted to help. I tell you that now because it matters later. When she moved in, I made it clear she didn't need to contribute to mortgage. Old-fashioned, maybe, but the house was paid down significantly, and I didn't need her money. I told her to save her income, build her own financial cushion, contribute to groceries and utilities if she wanted. She worked as a marketing coordinator, made decent money. I figured she was saving. She wasn't. The proposal happened on a Tuesday night in October. She'd been dropping hints for months. I'd been dragging my feet. Not because I didn't care about her, but because something in the back of my mind kept tugging. I ignored it, bought the ring. She said yes, cried, called her mother, and had it on Instagram before I'd even put the ring box in my pocket. For about 6 weeks, things were fine. Then the first comment slipped out. We were watching TV. She said, almost casually, "Now that we're engaged, I feel like I should have more say in the finances." I muted the TV. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I live here. I contribute. I feel like I should know where things stand." I showed her everything. Pulled up the mortgage documents, bank statements, investment accounts. All of it. She went quiet, then said, "You have more than I thought." That sentence should have been a warning flare. I filed it away and moved on. I shouldn't have. 3 weeks later, she sat me down at the kitchen table with the energy of someone delivering a performance review. "I've been thinking," she said, "and I feel like the living situation isn't really equal." "Equal how?" "I live here. I use the space. I cook. I clean sometimes. I deal with you." She laughed a little, like it was a joke. It wasn't, and I'm not getting anything for it. I think I should be compensated. I stared at her. Compensated. Yes, like rent. I think you should pay me rent. You want me to pay you rent. In my house. It's only fair. I gave up my apartment. My commute is longer. I put up with a lot. How much? I asked. I kept my voice completely flat. $2,000 a month. $2,000 per month to live in my house. A house she'd never contributed a single dollar toward. A house I bought years before I even met her. "How about," I said slowly, "you pay me $2,000 a month for squatting a house you have zero legal claim to?" Her face went cold. "That's not funny. I'm not laughing." She called me selfish, said I had no concept of emotional labor, and went to the bedroom. I sat at the kitchen table alone, looking at the walls I'd painted myself, the floors I'd refinished over 3 consecutive weekends, the window I'd reframed after a storm. And I thought, I need to talk to a lawyer. I called a real estate attorney the next morning, one recommended by a co-worker. I explained the situation, house solely in my name, purchased 5 years before we met, fiancé living with me for 14 months, no cohabitation agreement, no financial contribution from her side. He told me something that made me pay close attention. He said that while I was in a strong position, given a clear ownership record, I needed to be careful about how things escalated. If we married, everything would change dramatically. If she attempted to claim financial reliance or implied tenancy, it would be an uphill battle for her, but not an impossible argument to raise. Document everything, he said. And if you're seriously reconsidering this relationship, be very deliberate about your next steps. I didn't tell her about the lawyer visit, but I started paying attention differently. She escalated fast. Within a week of our kitchen table conversation, She'd launched what I can only call a campaign. First, she called my mother, told her I was being financially controlling and withholding resources. My mother called me directly and said, "What is going on over there?" I explained the whole thing. She went quiet and then said, "That girl's got some nerve." She didn't call my fiancé back. Second, she started photographing things around the house. The kitchen appliances, the backyard, the shared spaces. I noticed it, didn't say anything, just kept my own record of what was happening. Third, and this was the move that really showed me who I was dealing with, she went to my best friend, told him I was financially abusive, and that she was afraid of what would happen when she brought up money. My best friend texted me immediately. "Bro, what is she doing?" "She just tried to get me to talk some sense into you." I told her to kick rocks. That word, afraid, was deliberate. She was building a narrative, and I saw it clearly now. I called my lawyer back and told him what was happening. "She's building a paper trail," he said. "Pressure tactic. She's likely been advised that if she can establish financial dependence and emotional distress, she has more leverage." Leverage for what? Potentially a palimony claim. It's rare without a written or clearly proven oral agreement, and she'd have a very weak case. She's employed. The house predates the relationship by years. She made no financial contributions, but the threat of it is usually the point. It's designed to make you settle. He told me what I needed to do. Since she'd been living there over a year, and I hadn't established a formal tenancy, she was legally considered a tenant at will in my state. That meant I needed to serve her a proper 30-day written notice to vacate. It wasn't a hostile eviction. It was a legal document that started the clock and, critically, put on record that she had no ownership claim to property. He told me to have it served by a process server, not handed to her directly, to keep everything clean. While I was waiting for the notice to be prepared, she made her biggest mistake yet. I came home one evening to find her sitting at the kitchen table with a folder open in front of her. Inside, it were printed copies of my bank statements. She'd gone into my home office, a room she had no reason to be in, and gone through my desk. "You have a brokerage account," she said, "with $84,000 in it." I stood in the doorway and just looked at her. "You went through my desk." "I live here. I have a right to know." "You have a right to nothing in that desk. Nothing in this house. Nothing in any account with my name on it." I walked over, closed the folder, took it back to my office. When I came back, she was standing in the kitchen with her arms crossed. "I'm going to talk to a lawyer," she said. "Good idea," I said. "Tell them you've been living rent-free for 14 months in someone else's house and just went through their private financial documents without permission." She had nothing to say to that. 2 days later, the 30-day notice to vacate was served by a process server at 11:14 in the morning while she was home working remotely. She called me 14 times in the next 2 hours. I let everyone go to voicemail. On the 15th call, I picked up. "What I asked this," she said. "It's a 30-day notice to vacate. You can't do this. We're engaged. I own the house. You're not on the mortgage, not on the deed, and we're not married. Legally, you're a tenant at will. I absolutely can do this." She was furious, called me vindictive, cruel, said I was throwing away everything we had. I let her finish. Then I told her she had 30 days and ended the call. 9 days into the notice period, her attorney sent a letter. It was 2 pages and accused me of constructive abandonment of the relationship and financial coercion. It also threatened a palimony claim based on her reasonable expectation of financial support arising from the engagement. I forwarded it to my attorney within the hour. He called me back quickly. "It's a bluff," he said. "Palimony requires a written agreement or substantial proof of a specific oral contract to support. An engagement ring is not a contract. Her employment record and the clean ownership history of your property make this extremely difficult to argue. We respond and we go on offense." The letter his office sent back was precise. It documented the purchase date of the house, the sole ownership record predating the relationship by 5 years, the complete absence of any financial contribution from her during 14 months of residence, and this part was my attorney's addition, a formal demand that she return any copies made of my private financial documents. noting that unauthorized access to financial records can carry serious legal consequences. It also noted that my fiancé had verbally demanded $2,000 per month in compensation for residing in the property, with a specific date of that conversation recorded, and that this demand had been witnessed. My best friend had agreed to provide a signed affidavit. The letters from her attorney stopped after that, but she didn't stop. With about 10 days left on the notice, she tried the one angle she thought she still had. The ring, she found out, or someone had told her, that in my state, an engagement ring is treated as a conditional gift. If the person who gave it breaks off the engagement, the recipient can potentially keep it. If the recipient ends it, they typically have to return it. So she didn't break off the engagement. She just waited and made the remaining days in that house a calculated exercise in low-level misery. She stopped speaking to me directly. She'd take my clean dishes out of the drying rack and put them back in the sink with food on them. She cranked the thermostat to 78 degrees every night and claimed she was cold. She had her sister call my phone repeatedly, claiming she wanted to mediate. Every move was small, individually deniable, collectively designed to make me lose my temper and give her something to document. I didn't give her anything. I bought a thermostat lock for $40. I washed my dishes immediately after using them. I let every call from her sister go to voicemail. I installed a doorbell camera, completely within my rights as a homeowner, and sent weekly footage to my attorney to document the quiet, unbothered environment I was maintaining. And I quietly moved my brokerage assets to a new account at a different institution. Completely legal. My money, my accounts, my decision. I also had the house formally appraised. It had gone from $187,000 when I bought it to $340,000 current value, and filed updated homeowner documentation. Everything neat, everything airtight. Then I made the call that ended it. I called her father, not to complain or vent. I called him because he'd always been a reasonable man, and because I wanted him to understand, calmly, what was coming if she didn't leave voluntarily. I explained that I'd already prepared unlawful detainer paperwork, the formal eviction filing, to be submitted the moment the 30-day period expired. I told him that would mean a court date, a public record, and a formal judgment against her. I told him I didn't want that for her, but I would follow through completely if I had to. There was a long silence. "I'll talk to her," he said. She was out in 4 days. Not gracefully. She rented a truck, brought 2 friends, and loaded her things over Saturday afternoon while I sat in the living room. She walked past me several times without a word. On one of the last trips, she stopped. "You're going to regret this," she said. I looked up. I regret a lot of things. This isn't going to be one of them. She left. The door closed. The house was quiet. I wasn't done, though. 2 weeks after she moved out, her attorney sent a demand letter claiming she was owed the ring back, or its cash value of $6,200, on the grounds that I had effectively ended the engagement by serving the eviction notice. My attorney's response was 3 sentences. It noted that my fiancé had made a unilateral financial demand of $2,000 per month as a condition of the relationship, which constituted her restructuring the terms of the engagement on her own initiative. It noted she had accessed my private financial documents without authorization, and it stated that based on her conduct, the breakdown of the engagement was precipitated by her actions, not mine, and that under my state's conditional gift statute, the ring was to be returned within 14 business days, or we would pursue recovery in small claims court. The ring arrived by mail in a padded envelope on day 11. Then something happened that I hadn't planned for at all. About a month after she moved out, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman who introduced herself as a co-worker of my former fiancé. She said she felt I should know something. My fiancé had been telling people at her office, for months, going back to around the time she moved in with me, that she co-owned a house with her partner. She'd used this story in casual conversation, and at one point to back out a share expense arrangement with co-workers, citing her substantial mortgage responsibilities. There was no mortgage. There were no responsibilities. It was a story she'd maintained for over a year. And then the second part. The woman on the phone had been seeing someone who, it turned out, my fiancé had also been seeing for about 5 months, overlapping with our engagement. My fiancée had told this man that she was trying to get out of a difficult living situation with a financially controlling partner. I was a controlling partner. I was the villain in the story she'd been telling everyone else. I thanked the woman and sat with that information for a while. It recontextualized everything. The paper trail she'd been building, the word afraid she'd used with my best friend, the financial abuse narrative she'd floated to my mother. It wasn't just a legal tactic. It was a full alternate version of reality she'd been constructing and living in probably long before the kitchen table conversation ever happened. I didn't go to her workplace. I didn't call her. I didn't post anything. The meaningful consequences had already been delivered through a lawyer's office, a 30-day notice, a 3-sentence letter, and a padded envelope with a ring inside. My attorney did send one final letter preserving the record of the unauthorized financial document access, not demanding anything, just keeping the file open, making sure she knew the paper trail had her name on it. She never responded. The house is still mine. Fully. The appraisal sits in the same desk she went through, and some days I take it out not out of pride, but out of a specific kind of gratitude. Gratitude that I talked to a lawyer before I reacted, that my best friend didn't hesitate for a second, that her own father looked at the situation honestly and did the right thing. She wanted $2,000 a month to put up with me. She got a process server at her door, a legal filing held in reserve, a demand letter about the ring, and a paper trail that isn't going anywhere. I got my house back. The kitchen table conversation didn't change who she was. It just showed me who she'd always been. Some people reveal themselves slowly, some all at once. Either way, once you see it clearly, you only have to decide what to do about it.